dodge this.
One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole? Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of DTRH. It is October 2nd, 2014. Tonight, coming back on with me to discuss the same topic they were on the last time, except it's a more updated conversation. It's the second half of the conversation which we predicted. We actually predicted in the first half of the conversation the last time they were on that we'd be having this conversation about a month or two later, and here we are having said conversation that we all predicted. Now, who am I talking about? My good friends over at True Stream Media, Aaron Dykes and Melissa Melton, the dynamic duo of truth. What's up, guys?
Hey.
It's sad that we have to come back and have this conversation.
Actually, Melissa did predict it. She was way back in the day. It was like, hey, this Ebola thing's happening, Bo. I was like, yeah, it'll blow over.
Yeah, back when the WHO was having meetings, back when they weren't doing anything about it. And I said, wow, they're just acting like this is a byline on the world that 350 people have died in a very short amount of time from Ebola. They're just putting that on the little ticker at the bottom no one even reads. And they're not even talking about it. And now look, now here we are.
Don't worry about stopping flights from Africa.
They've done everything they could to get some freaking Ebola here.
Is it
they
me?
Did everything they could.
Like, is it me or are they looking in the book going, what shouldn't we do? Okay, let's run with that as the playbook.
It's like, I mean, all they didn't do was erect a giant neon billboard above the whole country. Ebola, come here now. Like, they did every other possible negligent, stupid, ridiculous. Our government are those people in the horror film that go running up the stairs when the bad guy is there, with the serial murderers there, instead of out the front door. That's our government.
I know they're negligent, and I know they're stupid, and I know there's a lot of, like, inept
Oh, this
people.
was a concerted effort.
But
this
come on, like,
seriously,
like, how many times would you have had to screw up, and how many times would you have had to drop the ball? Like, what if someone actually ran the actuaries and did the numbers on that? Come back and tell me what they are, because I probably have a better chance of winning the lottery by never playing. It doesn't make any sense to me. And the hospital just sent the guy home. Really?
I mean,
really?
They were like, oh, you had the flu and you were in Liberia. Yeah, here's some amoxicillin. Why don't you or whatever?
So does that mean that like every nurse and doctor in there was so plugged into the Matrix that they've been watching like Dancing with the Stars, or I don't even know what's on anymore. That show might not even be on anymore. Whatever new waste of time piece of crap is on television, are they that influenced by all this garbage that's on TV that they don't even know that Ebola is an issue over in Africa? I mean, is that like how inept they are? Like
but don't you see? They regret that it was a miscommunication in the health team.
A miscommunication.
They just keep. That's what they keep saying. The nurse had the questionnaire. She asked him if he'd been there. It was a whole concerted deal there, but it was regretfully. Oh, I'm sorry. We regret that it was just bad communication.
That would be a twist on all the archetypal stuff where a pandemic comes down and 9 out of 10 people die and society's upheaved. If they were to not deal with it because of their politically correct language and failure to be able to admit it's a risk, but that's actually what's happening. It's
And then they're doing that exact thing that everyone does in the movies where they come out and say, don't worry, everyone. We have everything under control. It's like, wow, who wrote this script for the director of the CDC? Or has he just been watching a lot of movies? Because this is really bad.
All one has to do is go back to the 90s and see that movie with Dustin Hoffman in it called Outbreak. Remember that?
For real.
Remember that movie?
I know I'm laughing, but it's only because
viewing.
Right, exactly. I do believe that movie was a pretty popular film back in the 90s. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I could be wrong, but memory does serve me correctly. So, in the movies, when people got sick in the movies, they brought in soldiers with masks on, and everybody was wearing chem suits and all zip-tied and duct-taped up and plastic Tyvek suits, and did you see the cleanup crew cleaning out dude's apartment, the sick guy? They're pressure washing things. No respirators. They're just.
Wasn't he sick outside of the apartment?
That's just the guy that puked.
Everything?
Yeah, the one that got sick and puked. Yeah, they were pressure washing it or whatnot, I guess. And no masks, no Tyvek suits, no nothing. Hey, we're cleaning. Why are you washing things into the sewer? First of all, like.
Well, that's
I just went on air.
To laugh because it's like a bad movie.
I just went on air 2 days ago and was like, "Look, it's not like Africa here where we have the open sewers and people are just like rinsing the Ebola into it and everything, and then you have the cleanup crew, and it's like, okay, I stand corrected. We're effed. You just like there's got to be like to me, it's nobody. It's not." The coincidence, one after the next after that. Come on, it's impossible. Something like what are they just going to put up? Like you said, a huge neon sign: Ebola, free parking, or like they're going to twist the Ricola commercial, Ebola.
It is like that. It is actually very much like that. In fact, I feel like almost everything that's happening right now in our world can be found in movies from my childhood. Like they watch Terminator and go, "Oh, Skynet. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's get on that. We'll just go ahead and build that in a few years." I mean, everything. And now this. It was weird. Before this happened, just randomly, Aaron goes, we should watch The Stand. I've never seen it. And this is before this, happened. And so we just watched that not that long ago, right before all this stuff blew back up. And it just is amazing to watch that again, refresh my memory. But everything they did in that movie is similar to this. Because while they're telling everyone all this stuff about how they got it all under control, everything's fine, and all this, they've already announced what they're doing to those people down in Dallas right now. They've gone door to door to those people. They've put the people that had contact with him, his family is in a 21-day lockdown. They've got some other people that are locked down in the hospital. And they've told these people that they are on a 21-day self-quarantine. They cannot leave their house or have any contact. They have to be available to provide blood samples on demand or any other testing that the public health officials, the CDC, requires of them, or face criminal charges. So what is that? And how many other people are about to be subjected to it in the days to come? Because that's what they're doing. And they did it in that movie too. And while they were dragging people around and putting them in, quarantine and doing all this, what are they telling all the public? Don't worry, we have it all under control. There's nothing to worry about, which is exactly what they're saying now. And what amazed us the most was that last video we put up of the CDC. They try to do that cute little thing they do on CNN where they try to make this seem like it's so no big deal. And the guy's smiling the whole time, just like creepily smiling. And he's up there with Sanjay Gupta. And they're trying to do this whole thing where he says, but you have to have direct contact. I've not hugged you or kissed you or anything, so you have to have direct contact to transfer. And he says it has to be direct contact. And then Gupta goes, but by your own guidelines, you also said within 3 feet, and I'm within 3 feet of you, so, what about that? What if you sneeze or cough within 3 feet? It's like, oh, well, we would want to monitor that closely. It's like he goes and double backs right within a minute on what he just said. And this is the guy who's the director. So we're supposed to trust that as he's telling us that they have all kinds of confidence in their safety protocols, which already on this guy in Dallas were not followed because obviously the dude was sent home with freaking antibiotics over the weekend where he could touch and kiss and hug everybody, I guess.
Well, if they're not concerned, it only takes hugging and touching and kissing. Well, then why don't you go sit in the room with him? You don't have to touch him. Just go sit in the room 3 feet from him for an hour. If you're not worried, if it's not airborne, he can cough, right, and you won't get it, right? Oh, you won't go sit in the room with him? Oh, why is that? Oh, because you're full of it. That's why.
Exactly. This is the head of the CDC.
Everything's fine. There's no chance of
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, I just want to remind the listener that for the first time ever, we're actually having a conversation about Ebola actually being in the United States. And this is, in reality, the first time, like 5 years ago or even a year ago, 6 months ago, you couldn't have said, there's a chance you could get Ebola in the U.S. That was a joke. People would make maybe a joke or, a smart-ass comment about something. Oh, don't touch that. It's probably got Ebola on it. It's disgusting. It's gross, right? Right? And maybe a public restroom. Now there's actually the chance that you could get Ebola in the United States. I mean, does anybody not realize they did this? And by the way, our government has a patent on Ebola. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist, more of a conspiracy realist, but just saying, this is quite odd. Something smells, and isn't the timing interesting? Right around election time, maybe they can use it to bring in a martial law type scenario, and at the same time he can pass his little amnesty thing. Lord knows. Oh, by the way, if they're so worried about the spread of Ebola, right? If they're so concerned about it, you hear these stories that behind the scenes they really are worried about it. Then why have they not shut down air traffic from Africa? And why is the southern border still wide open with people coming across? What happens when they can't get in? What happens when they shut down the air traffic from Africa? Eventually, there's going to be calls to. I'm willing to bet within the next week they'll finally pull their heads from their rears and shut down air traffic from Africa. So what happens? Do you think people aren't going to fly into Mexico and try to cross through the Mexican border that way? Maybe an extra day or two will give them a little more time to get sicker and spread it further to everybody.
Let's say ISIS is going to spread it on purpose or something.
Well, there's another thing.
They can come up with from this.
Well, yeah, a million. We talked about this the last time. How many different directions could they go with this? And enact martial law. And what about that thing Obama just did an executive order not too long ago that if you have an airborne respiratory illness, that you can be locked in
I am
your house.
glad you brought that up, Popeye, because we have that now with this mysterious enterovirus that all these kids are getting in every state. And some have died now, and it's paralyzing some kids. And they keep saying they have no idea how it suddenly showed up here and why it's getting transferred so fast, people to people, and all this. And I just think it's really special, magical, coincidental timing, like winning that lottery I didn't play, that our president signed an executive order referring specifically to respiratory illnesses and everything. And then we have that. That's pretty special. Does he have a crystal ball in the White House? I didn't know that.
Maybe they got Reagan's old astrologist and Nancy Reagan's old psychic to come in. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And people are like, well, our government would never do that. Dude, Really? How many times do they have to be caught lying? How about this Coruscant group thing, right? The past 2 days I harped on the fact that they don't even exist. It's not even a real thing. Like, what they used as an excuse to bomb Syria, I mean, they got that in slicker than anything I've seen lately. Really, I mean, a year ago, people were like, no, we can't do it. And then under the threat of ISIS, right around the anniversary of September 11th, we use another unnamed group that turns out to be completely made up and fictitious, big surprise, to justify bombing Syria. Now it's going to be, going on for years on end. Into the future presidency, will be violating the sovereignty of this country and, perhaps going into World War III. Awesome. And they get caught lying and nobody cares. So, is it really a stretch of the imagination that they would do this Ebola thing on purpose? I mean, really, who's running the show? The Marx Brothers?
Yeah, well, but why not bungle? Because every time you bungle, you get more cash, a bigger budget. Bigger the problem, more things screw up. Hey, I'm sorry, we need more oversight and budget. But we'll throw in a review. Do you guys want to put a panel together? We got a couple million for that budget, too.
I think I could almost see this CDC director having a nice Lois Lerner moment in his future. Because, at some point, maybe not. If things get crazy, maybe not. But
she admitted that she would do it again, too.
So ridiculous.
Under quarantine, so...
By the way, Lois Lerner did admit that she'd do it again. She didn't feel she did anything wrong. So, just saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you read her personal emails that have actually come out that were from her BlackBerry, she sounds like a real wonderful person that I'd love to share tea with. She sounds
just like she looks.
Yeah, she does.
Yes, her emails, her inner ugly shines right through. It's her outer ugly.
That's what we would call in Missouri ate up. Okay. So.
Yeah, and I'm talking from the inside out, from the soul level all the way. That's why a lot of them look like that too. Brzezinski, Kissinger. There's nothing left inside. They're just a husk of evil.
It is pretty nasty, actually. It is disgusting.
I wonder where that evil energy goes to when they leave, and they.
I hope it goes back to the earth and gets transmuted, because otherwise, ugh.
Into what though? I mean, what's it going to get? I mean, what can you turn something that's honestly that's evil into? GMO foods.
Well, hopefully it just gets, equaled out or something, cleansed. I'm not sure, because otherwise it's just a black cloud, like in that Fern Gully movie that Tim Curry played, the black toxic cloud. So maybe that's what happens. It's an animated toxic cloud. Sorry, I just had a whole lot of sugar a minute ago. So
I keep wondering to myself why we refer to movies, but then again, they're archetypal, and actual so-called reality in the news cycle seems so bent. I mean, there must be some kind of quantum mechanics at work. That's just, things are so strange now.
Well, back using Outbreak again, right? Another movie reference. Back when that movie came out, it was so that the idea that would happen was so far out there. If you had said to somebody when that movie came out, that's a reality. They could do that. You would get made fun of. You would get, lambasted for days on end. And now it's like the mainstream media just openly they can lock you in your house. The families are being kept under armed guard. Now, I'm not saying that, personally, I understand the need to have the armed guards there because they know the people are going to get antsy and be like, F this, I want to leave. And then they go out and they cough on somebody and then they make things worse. So I get why they have the armed guards there. You know what I mean? But if you had told somebody, 15 years ago that this could, and this very well could have been a reality back then too. But if you had told somebody back then, it would have been, oh no, you're crazy. Now it's like, yeah, so what? They can lock you up. Not that I don't understand or somewhat say, okay, yeah, they should, in that situation, I guess people kind of do need a babysitter because, human nature is going to kick in. You're going to get antsy and you might do something stupid. The one person that gets out will be that guy you always see in a movie and that you go, what the hell is wrong with these people? That'll be the one person
it'll be that guy.
Yeah, it'll be that guy.
Well, I think Mike Adams made a really good point in his article about this that he put up on Natural News today, because here's what it is. I understand it too. Of course, I think it's pretty interesting now. They're going to armed guard or put armed guards around those people, but they wouldn't treat the country the same way weeks ago. like weeks ago, they wouldn't do anything at all. They were bringing people here. But now they're like, oh, we better get some armed guards and actually do something at all so that we look. Apparently, the CDC, by the way, wasn't even going to tell anybody about this. They were forced into the position of having to have a press conference. So, because it was going to come out one way or the other, so they had to, but they tried to stop even the information getting out at first. So, very The Stand, very Outbreak. But the question that Mike Adams was posing is, what do you think is going to happen when it's 100 families or 500 families or 1,000 families? Because they're not going to be able to put just armed guards everywhere. Eventually, now we're talking about something where is it going to be upgraded to those wonderful, lovely community health centers or whatever they're going to call it when they're hauling people away forcibly and making them get all kinds of tests and stuff? I mean, what are they going to call it then? And the thing is that what people need to understand about this is that the African people, and we were talking about this earlier, they think this is a government conspiracy. In the largest newspaper in Liberia, they posted front page a story from a doctor there who said that was this caused by the DOD? Because they know they were over there, that our biowarfare scientists have been over there for years in those exact countries doing tests with monoclonal antibodies for these things on healthy adults over there for years now. And so they're saying that, and they've said that they think it's all a conspiracy. They didn't trust the health centers because they thought that it's not like I get Ebola and go to the center. I go to the center and then I get Ebola. So there's been a lot of conspiracy over there. They feel that this is a conspiracy. And then now you have this here. It's kind of, I mean, I don't, obviously, I'm not the person that says everything's a conspiracy, and I don't believe everything is. But geez, it's like we said earlier, could they have done anything to I mean, really, other than just bringing it over here and dumping it in the water, just blatantly on air live or something? Could they have done anything more to really let this happen? Because they really did. And now we're talking about something that it can't. They're saying it's all under control. It's no big deal. Yeah, okay. I trust anything this inept government has to say about anything.
When Chris shivers up his leg, Matthews is calling out the president over something and actually meaning it, there's an issue, okay? Like when you've lost your biggest supporter and your biggest fan, you're doing it wrong.
Oh man, even Pierce Morgan said that Obama is no good anymore. So I mean, I remember at my old job having to write quite a few articles about Pierce Morgan back when his Twitter page had a background that he put up of a picture of him with his arms around Barack and Michelle. That was back in the day.
Yeah, but it's also part of this, and I know some of it is, yes, he's losing his biggest fans, but it's also that time of the presidency.
It is.
It's that they
got to switch over to Hillary.
Yep, and it's either going to be Hillary or, like, one of the things I see is, PNAC Part 2 getting ready. And them getting ready to put a conservative, because I see people going, saying, smart people that I know going, this whole ISIS thing, man, if we had a Republican and, maybe if Romney had won, things would be different. We'd be in much better shape. We'd be able to tell Iran to go screw. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, are you people stupid? Do you not realize they're the people that started this whole train to begin with? I mean, yeah, there's things that go back way further down the line, but, starting with 9/11, I don't recall. Who was in office? Oh, that's right, George W. Bush. Oh, and who was most of his cabinet? All those douchebags that were part of that PNAC group that, like a year before, wrote that white paper. What was it? Rebuilding America's Defenses. Oh, that's right, where they talked about having a new Pearl Harbor. And then what did George Bush say on 9/11? I think we just had this generation's Pearl Harbor. Wait, what?
Brzezinski said it too, and he's mostly in the Democratic wing of things. He's been an Obama advisor. He said it a couple of years before PNAC did in his grand chessboard. And it was something I remember that was interesting that the late Jim Tucker, the Bilderberg sleuth, told me, was that the Bilderberg people actually liked the Democrats in office sometimes because they were able to do smaller scale, quieter wars, basically the model of the Yugoslavian war. The Balkanization under Clinton and everything, because there wasn't a massive, I'm for the war, no, we all hate the war, we're marching against it. It was just kind of we're bombing someplace, somewhere, it's a laundry list of places I'm not real familiar with, back to the TV, right? And that's happened under Obama. He's been at war with like 10 countries. The whole Arab Spring uprising really is an unsung story of subversion through corporate dominance. I mean, the State Department and the outlets of Brzezinski and Soros in particular have gone a long way in remapping that whole region. They're not done yet. They're going to literally redraw the map. They're going to break up Iraq and Syria, and the usual players are going to benefit from it.
And that not giving a crap by the anti-war crowd is, during a Democrat in office doing the same thing, is shown by like Code Pink's attitude change immediately when Obama got in. They went from being against the Iraq war and the Afghan war to immediately backing the Afghan war for women's rights.
Wow.
You can go look it up. You'll see they actually went over, and the government flew them over to Afghanistan to go talk to women in Afghanistan. I'm not kidding. Medea Benjamin flew over there. Okay, why do you think I have Code Pink in my eyes? I have no. I mean, I didn't really. I've dealt with them when I was a ground pounder, and I would go out on the street and give DVDs and bullhorn and stuff. I remember them from back in the day, and I could take them or leave them. But after, when I immediately saw their flip flop, as many other anti-war groups did the same thing, it was like, wow, you people are hypocrites to the nth degree, for real. Like, not that I really had a ton of respect for you to begin with, but any I did just went right down the drain. Because, I mean, immediately, as soon as you can go look it up, as soon as Obama got in, within a few months, they flew a couple of the members, including Medea Benjamin from Code Pink, over to Afghanistan to go talk to women about women's rights. And they were okay with the Afghan war because we were freeing females, after all. Ugh. Ugh. I'm going to cut us off, guys, because the break is sneaking up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. 3 short, quick minutes, I promise. Stay tuned. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Melissa Melton, Aaron Dykes, the dynamic duo of Truth Stream Media. Hey, really quick, guys, before we get back into it, plug your news show that you're doing.
Okay, so we started trying to do a package effort. It started out, it was going to be a weekly news show, but there's only 2 of us doing everything. So it's, when we do a strict show, it's going to take a little bit more effort to do it right. And because last time we ended up with a 2-hour-long news show on vaccines, it ended up becoming a documentary. So we want to get back into doing a 1-hour-long packaged news program. We do that up at youtube.com/TrueStreamMedia. We got one coming up pretty soon on alternative energy, free energy, over unity energy stuff, which is why it's taking a little bit longer, because
it's such a
deep rabbit hole of interesting stuff. But that's another topic for another time. But yeah, so youtube.com/TrueStreamMedia. Our website's TrueStreamMedia.com. And probably after this one, we're going to change back over to more of a mixed format. But for now, we've been trying to do a show that's themed.
This is good, though. We have a chance to actually get creative and philosophical and frame things and not just always only respond to news headlines, which is a real shortcoming of the alternative media, because we get dragged into these horror stories about Ebola and everything else, And
you become part of the news cycle that you end up, like what you we
Melissa
talk against.
That she's too creative for that.
Aww. No, but you're correct. Both of you are.
Oh, great. I made you puke. Get someone in an hazmat suit over there.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, get a pressure washer.
I don't have Ebola, I promise. You can wash mine down into the drain.
With the Ebola.
But can you trust me? Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, gosh.
I'm just kidding. No, you're correct. The alternative media, the one thing I have said numerous times, that's why I stopped. I killed my view count and my Alexa rating on federaljack.com. Nobody else did that. I did it. Federal Jack was in the top 40,000 sites in the U.S. on Alexa for a very, very long time.
You've been around for a long time.
Yeah, I stopped doing what I was doing because I realized I was becoming part of this news cycle that,
Yeah, we did too.
And here I am railing against a news cycle and breaking it down, how things are cycles and stuff, and it's used for programming. And I realized that the alternative media, including myself, was becoming part of this. So 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I just slowly started to ebb off posting constant, reposting constant articles and stuff. I still do repost stuff, but Federal Jack has gone back to what it was meant to be originally, which was more so an archive of information for a researcher to be able to go to at any time and download stuff, look up older articles and stuff. I mean, I still do post news and stuff, but I just do. I think it's more quantity, or not, it's more quality over quantity. Whereas a lot of the alternative media ends up becoming quantity over quality because it becomes about getting view counts and hits.
And we're trying to go with
the
quality.
internet works.
We're trying to go with quality and do something creative, and it does take longer. But I think in the end, what we've come up with is we've gotten pretty good review, especially on that last one we did, which did end up being, it's on all about vaccines up at our YouTube channel, and it did end up being 2 hours and 15 minutes. But we've had some pretty good messages from people that have watched it. It's helped them. They've learned things, and they were actually able to be entertained in the process because we try to use humor and sarcasm and parody.
I think your
bring something
commercials,
to it.
your fake commercials are probably one of the funniest things.
Oh, we got more coming.
Oh man, wait till you see Aaron's BP.
People giving us too much encouragement.
It's too funny. You'll love it.
You guys-
but otherwise,
got some skills,
you do this
but-
stuff every day, and it gets to be like that joke in The Simpsons where they hired the robot to take over the radio station, like BS, false flag, everything sucks. Prime Minister said this, liar. It's just so redundant and predictable that they're going to put out lies.
Was it South Park that said that Family Guy was written by a bunch of manatees or something? It's like that anymore. I mean, we decided to pull ourselves out and just try to focus on something more in depth that would actually give people something to not just something to be afraid of every other 5 seconds and barely touch on putting something in context as to why it's important to even know about it. I mean, that's what the news does. You turn on the TV and it's just a bunch of babble, and they don't tell you why they're telling you something now is important. It's just, this happened today and then this other thing happened, and here's why you should be afraid. Also, take this medication.
Bingo. Melissa
also
just got
sports.
bingo. Tell her what she's won, Bob. You're 100% correct.
A special battery casing in the Matrix.
Right.
Plug right it down.
Yay! A newer, upgraded plug.
Woohoo!
So you can jack into the Matrix that much faster. I agree. It's you realize, like I realized I was becoming, like I said, I was becoming part of a cycle again. I didn't want to become part of a cycle, so that's why I stepped out of it, and I started doing more shows about, like talking to the audience more. About real issues and actually having a real conversation with them and just breaking things down the way I do. And it's actually, the people that listen to the show, they tune in because that's the way I do, the broadcast, and that's the way I do things. And to me, I'm more effective that way. I didn't want to just be regurgitating the same crap. I wasn't doing this just to get hits or to have an Alexa rank because I don't make any money on this, right? So, like, what was the point of? I was burning myself out, and I was just doing everything. I felt I wasn't on the right track for like a multitude of reasons. So I hit the brakes, And once I hit the brakes and I got it back on track, now I think it's more effective. The broadcast, what I do overall is more effective as a whole than, and I'm not just a website. It's more people sit and get a chance to actually listen more to my intellect and not just me break down news. I mean, how many radio shows go on air and break down news stories, you know what I mean? And just go over the same thing, Bleh.
That's what we're trying to do too. It's difficult because it was a risk to break out and try to do this full time anyway. And then, it gets sucked into, you got to get hits, and everybody's going to put up these fake ads about the shocking secret to make you lose weight.
Revealed. Secrets revealed. Secrets exposed. Exposed secrets revealed. What is that? Everything is secrets revealed? Really?
I have friends that have made money, like doing the advertising thing or whatnot, and they're like, hey, man, you could make, they've made pretty good money. And I'm like, no, I won't do it. And I'm like, look, the one thing at the end of the day, I have to be able to look myself in the face, in the mirror when I go into the bathroom at night or in the morning when I wake up, okay? And I'm in the bathroom and I'm brushing my teeth and I'm washing my face and everything. I have to be able to look at myself and respect myself.
That's the thing. Like, we've been contacted recently about different kinds of sponsors that want to put different things on our site. And we're pretty clueless about a lot of that stuff, but I do know this. I'm not going to try and sell somebody something ever. Well, first of all, I suck at selling stuff anyway. I don't even do a very good job. Remember when we, again, bringing this up again, but 15 hours, us three, we were on the air 15, 16 hours. We're supposed to be plugging a, what were we trying to even do? Fundraiser?
We were doing a
sort?
fundraiser.
And we never even mentioned it was a fundraiser. We just talked for 15 hours.
I think twice in 15 hours we mentioned for like 10 seconds that it was a fundraiser.
Exactly. So that's not my job. If that was, I'd be doing that instead. So I suck at that. And so I'm not good at this anyway, but I'm not going to put stuff all over my website, first of all, so it looks like some weird trashy place that I wouldn't even want to go visit. And secondly, I'm not going to sell people something if I don't use it myself, believe that it's an actual good product, think that it works. I mean, I'm not going to do that because that sucks. I wouldn't want someone else to do that to me.
Well, the thing that gets me is like when you talk to a lot of people in the alternative media when it comes to that. Not everybody. There's a lot of good people out there. I'm not bashing the alternative media as a whole. What I'm saying is I see it being steered the same way that it's almost like they figured out that they, being the powers they shouldn't be, figured out really quick how to control the alternative media. It's this growing problem for them. You know, first they laughed at us. Right? How does it go? First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Well,
then they assimilate you like a face-sucking alien.
Exactly. That's where we're in the extra part where they're trying to assimilate us, like the Borg or that spider thing in Alien that ingests. You know,
they are, and I've seen a lot of people.
In your stomach.
Ew, yuck. Yeah, they are, and I've seen a lot of people start to become a lot more mainstream, and it's kind of turns my stomach to think that the same stuff they were rallying against just a few years ago, now they're totally okay with. Why?
And a lot of times, even behind the scenes, I know people that, you know, they run sites and they'll say, well, you know, the mainstream does this, so we have to do, if we want to be effective, we have to do things the same way.
Yeah.
No! No! What did Einstein say? You cannot solve a problem. Yeah, well, insanity is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But he also said that you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. Well, I know he was referencing a world government, but ignore what he was referencing and just listen to the tidbit of what he said, and he makes a good point that, yes, you cannot solve a problem with the same base level of thinking that created it. And that's what they're trying to convince us needs to be done on every level about everything, right? And that's what they're doing. That's what we're doing.
There is a growing problem with that, and it's not for me to tell other alternative people what they're doing wrong as if I'm doing something right, but for us to get towards our ill-defined goals that got us into this in the first place, getting assimilated into, for instance, the Republican Party under candidates we think are for freedom and liberty, it's just not going to go well.
You mean Rand Paul? Are you talking about the Paul?
Yeah, that's a pretty good example, yeah.
You mean neocon Paul? Should we just call him Rand Pinac? Right, Pinac Light.
Rand Rove.
Marco Pinac Rubio. He's talking like 2 months ago about, well, you know, I have a dream for a new American century, and I was like, wait, what? Rewind. What'd you say? And then wait. The missus, right? The missus is still plugged in. She likes to watch, stuff for free. We don't have cable, so whatever she can, if she can stream it, she'll, you know, there's a few things that she watches that she can stream for free. And one of these shows, she's watching it, and I was in the bedroom, and I was doing some work on my laptop, and she's watching it and doing some stuff, and I'm playing in the background, and I hear the woman in the show say, well, I just don't know what to do, you know, this whole New World Order, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wait, what? And I rewound it, and I put the captions on because I was like, I didn't hear that right. I was like, no, I didn't hear that right. And I pressed play, and it played again, and she's talking about, I guess they're country singers in this show or whatever. It's some show on TV about country singers. And it's one of these shows. I don't know if it's ABC, NBC, one of these idiot networks, but it's one of the popular nighttime shows, like once a week or whatever. And they're talking. It's her and her fiance, I guess, talking about their album or her album or whatever. And while she's talking about the album, because she's talking about, like, you know, I guess because she's older and she hadn't released an album in a while, so the reference was, you know. And I can't remember the exact verbiage, but it was something like, you know, wow, blah, 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 this new world order. And his response, you know how sometimes they write things so it's not so much really what they're saying, but you have to listen to the words and see how like word magic and see how they're put in the sentence. And her fiance follows up with, she says, this is a big thing, this whole New World Order, and he says, you won't need money anymore, and you're going to feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's a global thing or something like that. And then but it's in the course of this conversation. You know what I mean? But like if you cut the sentence, like her sentence in half and the sentence that he says in half, and just take that portion and then listen to what he said or she said and then his response, like the two small pieces, you're like, holy crap. Like it popped out, and maybe it's just the way my brain is, but I wasn't even watching it. I was just listening with my ears, and I was typing out an email to somebody, and I had to stop because it was like, ding, red flag. And again, here we are, we were discussing, the control of the media and everything, and for whatever reason, it just popped up into my head. I think the show's called Nashville, which, ironically, if you knew anything about country music, at least according to MK Ultra victims, like Kathy O'Brien.
You and your pet topics.
Yeah. So. Oh, by the way.
But that's insane.
Speaking of that, I wonder if she shed a tear that Jim Trafficant passed away.
Oh, really?
So yeah, well, she mentions him in the book in a very negative light. So I just wonder, and I've never seen anybody ever call him to the carpet. So when he passed away the other day, that popped into my head too. I was like, wow. It kind of makes you wonder if that was an accident or if, trafficking eventually needed to be shut up. Who knows? It's probably just an accident, but because sometimes bad things do happen, but whatever. I just thought that was an interesting aside anyway. I know I just completely veered us off track, which is usually...
No, but that is insane.
Yes.
What you just said.
It isn't. Well, if anybody wants to know what I'm referencing when I say Kathy O'Brien, just go look up The Transformation of America by Kathy O'Brien. You can also look up Bryce Taylor's book, Thanks for the Memories. Go read both of them, and then in fact, I urge all the ladies that want to vote for Hillary Clinton to go read Kathy O'Brien's book.
Oh,
She
God.
speaks very highly of Hillary Clinton
Christ.
in there too. She had some interesting experiences, according to her, with Hillary Clinton. So you should perhaps
also, when you buy that, go ahead and get the Listerine now.
Oh, I'm going to tell you, I felt dirty after reading that book. Like
I haven't even finished it, and I mean, I have to take a bath, so 15 times. So
and kudos to Kathy for having the courage to, to be able to put it on paper, and Mark, for being able to get her through all that, and put that in print. I mean, that is, and people can say, well, it's fake, but when you go and you read her book, okay, maybe she lied, but what about Bryce Taylor? What about all these other people? I've played audio from victims that they testified back when Clinton was the president back in the 90s. And they talked about the torture and the things that they went through during MK Ultra experiments and mind control experiments. And it's the same stuff that Kathy O'Brien and Bryce Taylor talked about. But don't worry. I know it's all fake. It's
yes, all of it. All these people from all over different parts of the country, they got together, conspired. It was just, They told each other the stories and made it all up. The government loves everyone. I don't know why people can't just understand it. They want to protect us from everything, including Ebola. So,
and also voting for Hillary. Why don't we, as a country, elect a Noah's Ark ship to go live on and pick one that has rotting holes in the bottom of the boat and leaking places on the deck?
Yes. Can we pick somebody with just a few more conflicts of interest? Can we just find is there anyone that has more conflicts of interest and a worse history? Anybody we could pick? I guess there's probably someone, but come on, come on. I mean, excuse my language, but it's like we're a bunch of unoriginal bastards. We can't even think of someone else to vote for.
Are there serial killers in prison with more of a stinking, rotting trail of dead behind them?
Well, you know what I see? I see her daughter getting pregnant and her having that
PR move?
Yeah. No, I totally do. People are.
Oh, look, she's a grandma. She's gonna bake cookies in her kitchen. Oh,
she's gonna get all.
You don't want to eat those cookies, people. All right,
she's gonna get all the 60 and 70-year-old women to go vote for her because she's all the grandmothers, even the women in their 50s that are grandma. Bingo! They're all gonna be like, "Oh, look at her holding her," and there are gonna be people, and you know it as well as I do. Doesn't matter how smart they are. They're gonna go vote for her because she's got boobs and a vagina, just like we said when we discussed Hillary Clinton 2016. Blah. Right? Just because they're going to go vote for her, Melissa, because she's got boobs and a vagina. And look, you're a woman. Let me ask you an honest question. Does that make somebody a viable political candidate?
If I'm a low information voter that's had my brain removed and a television set put where it goes in the hole in my skull, then I guess so. If I'm not paying at all any attention whatsoever to the last, 35 years of American history as it relates to Hillary Clinton, then maybe I could do that sort of. I mean, she's Obama in a dress is not even, that's the phrase that some people are saying. That doesn't even begin to cover it. She's so much worse than Obama. Seriously, if I had my only choice was her and Obama, I would pick Obama again. I mean, geez. Or just jump off the cliff, but, yeah, and they're already making cutesy little jokes like her super PAC or whatever it's called. They're already making cutesy little jokes about, I can't wait to the day when they ask about President Clinton and I have to say which one.
And we keep choosing between the evil of two lessers, and I feel like it's that part of the Old Testament where all the Israelites are like, we want a king, and God's like, no, you don't want a king. And then a few weeks later, they're like, yeah, we want a king. No, you don't want a king. Please, a king. And they keep demanding a king. We keep picking these horrible people. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. It's all rigged. But what do we need these presidents for anyway?
Yeah, but, you know how you could, stop all this? Is if nobody voted for any of these people, and then they still won, and everybody was like, yeah, how did that happen?
See, that's what I've been saying. No confidence for a long time. Vote no confidence. Don't vote at all. There's no point in voting.
Imagine if nobody voted, and then they were
That'd be amazing.
And then they were they show these things look, landslide, and people are like, I have to call bullshit because I didn't vote, right? And then everybody else neither did I, and suddenly everybody's like, hey, wait a minute.
That would be the only way.
But it's like a religion to worshiping the flag for especially the older generation, to make a ritual of going to vote and voting straight party, whatever your party is.
Here's my little sticker I got, made in China, with the flag on it.
Voting only works on a local level and a state level, really. It does not work on the national. I mean, maybe with the Congress and senators and moving them in and out, but not. And that's really not going to work unless we have to put in place limitations. You can only be in office 4 years, maybe 5, and that's it. And they're like, well, we won't get anything done. Well, maybe you won't be on your ass and going on vacation all the time.
Yeah, why does it take those people 20 years to not get anything done?
Right, exactly. Pelosi, she's a...
What the hell has she ever done?
All of them. Her, Feinstein, and I don't want to... It's not just Democrats. There's Republican losers, too. John Boehner, that moron. Okay?
Lindsey Graham.
John McCain. I'm intimately well aware that the guys that we're giving weapons to are not ISIS. I'm very close with them. Really? That doesn't give me any confidence, John.
Is it just me, or is he turning more into a creepy kind of festering, Uncle Festery kind of? He's just really starting to get super, super, he's going the way of Dick Cheney or something. Yeah, he's getting real creepy.
His inner evil is oozing out.
It's starting to, isn't it? It's starting to just bubble out when he talks.
Twitches when he's on TV.
Yeah.
Dick Cheney, the Tin Man, if he only had a heart.
So you've got that, and then you've got John Kerry, who can't stop licking. He just looks like a lizard. He just keeps licking. I don't know if that's plastic surgery or Botox, or he's just fully just itchy all the time because he's so evil. I don't know what happened there. It's really creepy. It's like our government is run by weird zombies and human bugs. What is that?
I always say he looks like Eric Stoltz's character in the movie Mask. That's what John Kerry. If you Google the movie Mask
John Kerry
from the
looks
80s,
like the bad guy on The Stand.
He thinks John Kerry looks like the walking dude from The Stand.
Actually, he kind of does. He's got that big ass chin and that big long face. He does. You're right, Aaron. He totally does. Except that guy was way cooler and had more charm to him. John Kerry's like a doofus.
Yeah.
He is a douchebag of epic proportions. He really
is. And I guess he got all of that facial chin reconstructive surgery or whatever he did, and the Botox. And he said he fell on the ice, and that's why he had 2 black eyes or whatever. But he got all that surgery stuff done, I guess, so he can get laid. I don't know why he would have that. He just looks horrifying now. I mean, he didn't look before. Everyone called him horseface or whatever. I mean, that's kind of mean. But now he actually looks really scary. Now he actually really does look like a weird.
They look even creepy.
Scary person.
When people get like all sorts of weird plastic surgery to look, 100 years younger, and they're like 90 years old or 70 years old, and they look like they look wrinkle free, but like when they do facelifts and stuff, all they're doing really is pulling the skin tighter. So it's like your eyes get all distorted, your face gets all this. You just don't look the same. Age gracefully. Put on some makeup if
That's
you
my
want.
plan.
But damn, just age gracefully. I got wrinkles. I'm 37 and I have wrinkles on my forehead. I have, whatever. I have gray hair. I have gray in my beard. I have gray in my temples starting to show up. You know what Mrs. Popeye said to me? She goes, "Don't worry, I think it's sexy." She's like, "It's distinguishing." I was like, I really don't give a crap. I earned every single last one of those bastards. They're like badges of honor. That's what my mother used to call them.
Yeah.
I earned all my grays. I don't care. Whatever.
It's just such a weird... It goes to show, too, what is in the mindset of a guy who would do that, too. I mean, what does he honestly care about? Look how vain he is. That's ridiculous, but he's the... State Department guy? Oh, goody. Like, I'm so glad that's the guy. Awesome.
We have all these little
way to go on priorities
bags running the government
now,
and they don't really know anything. They're just see the problem is, and it's this, and I run into this a lot. There are people, and I know that younger generations. There's always they think they know everything and everything, but the generations now that like I'm in my late 30s. The people that are in their like early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, and even some people in their early 30s, but they're starting to get their act together. But they really believe, like you could tell them the sky is purple with yellow polka dots, and if you get them to believe it, they'll fight you. And I know the general public is like that, but this younger crowd is just like you don't even have to. It's not like the older generations. You had to really get them to believe the propaganda. These ones, you could just tell them once or twice and give them some candy or bubble gum, and it's like, okay, pat them on the head, and they run off, and they'll fight you on it. And it does not matter if they are completely wrong. If they idolize, the individual that's telling them, it's the cult of personality. That's what Obama is. He is a cult of personality. They made him a superhero, right? And now everybody followed him, got him in. Yay, everything he does is great. He's a great president. Now all of a sudden he's on his way out. Oh, he sucks. Everybody hates him. Oh, Obama's kind of a dick. He's not doing
Obama's election was the greatest public relations stunt of all time, I think.
I agree.
Go ahead.
No, well said, honey. I agree 10,000%. It was a huge public relations stunt.
Marvelous marketing coup.
Who was this guy? Nobody knows who he was. He comes out, and all of a sudden he's Superman. And they're going to pull the same thing now. We had the first black president. Now we're going to have the first female president. And she's grandma. Oh, she's so matronly, and she's such a sweet old woman. Right, she's got fangs, ladies and gentlemen. If you tear her skin off, she's like Diana from V. There's a fucking lizard underneath there. Okay, and she'll suck your kid's soul out. I promise you. We'll be back with hour number 2 in 3 short minutes. Do not vote for Hillary Clinton, please. Or Jeb Bush, either. That's another disgrace. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. Hanging out with me tonight are my good friends Aaron Dykes and Melissa Melton of Truth Stream Media. Make sure you check them out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube most definitely, or else you'll miss all their awesome work. And Melissa's impromptu videos of creepy, crawly scorpions with baby scorpions riding on its back, running around her.
You saw that one?
Yeah, he did. I have to tell you, that was
nasty, bro.
Strange. Well, I'm
not afraid of bugs and stuff. Like
that was insane. But it was
gross.
It was weird because I'd been having a lot of strange dreams lately about the stuff that's going on in the world, and I've been meditating on things, praying, and things like that. And that day was the 1-year anniversary of Aaron's dad passing away, and it was also my stepmom's birthday. My dad has also passed away this last year, both untimely, very strange. And so it was a very strange day already. And that thing, this was a decent mouse-sized scorpion, mother scorpion, that came walking right down the middle of our living room, out of our office, right down the middle of our living room, in a well-lit room filled with dogs and people. I don't know, it just doesn't even seem like good mama scorpion behavior to begin with. It was very strange, I thought, and just came walking right towards us, like, hi. And it just, and at first I knew it was a scorpion, obviously, but it looked funny. we were looking at it going, what's wrong with it? It looks really weird, because it was already big, and now we have a giant scorpion in our room, but it looks strange. It had 18 babies on it originally before we got it into the jar. So, yeah, it was weird. And then we started thinking, well, maybe we should look that up. Maybe that's a sign or something. Very interesting when they talk about scorpions and what they mean. They mean death and rebirth and transcendence and protection. So I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, that's definitely the most interesting thing I've seen in our house yet. And I've seen a lot of things in here. I didn't have pictures of them all. We've had geckos in here. We had all kinds of stuff in here. It's very interesting living in the part of Texas we live in.
Yeah, where I moved to in Florida was the same way. I mean, I lived in South Florida, and they have, right by the Everglades. But now where I live, in the northern section of Florida, it's more wooded. So now not only do you have the same swamp creatures, but now you also have bugs that are like prehistoric size. And you're like, whoa. Earlier today, I was getting some work done, and I was getting my car. I was getting an oil change done on the car for my wife. Took it over, dropped it off, and just walking around killing time. And I look over on a car tire that I'm standing next to, and I'm like, what is that? And I look. I took a picture of it with my cell phone. And I don't know. It's a huge moth. I don't know what kind of moth it is, but this thing is like the size of a small bird. It's bigger than a hummingbird. Like, it's so big that I could see the fur on its legs from like 5 feet away. I was like, damn, you're Mother Nature, you scary. I was like, what the hell are you? It's like Mothra was on the tire. He was right there. I was waiting for Godzilla to come around the corner. So yeah, no, I know what prehistoric bugs are. I know what you guys mean. I saw that video and I started laughing because I was like, wow, she's been fighting all sorts. And then you were like, and then you started showing all the other stuff that you've collectively videotaped. And it's hysterically funny because there's like spiders and you're like, oh, it's just a wolf spider. You're like not the average girl, Melissa, because most women I know would be like, trying to throw fire at it and whatever. I mean, that's how I am.
That's not the biggest one I've seen in the house, and I have definitely jumped up on a chair or two, but that's the one I had on tape.
We didn't get the snakes on tape either.
Yeah.
In particular, the one that the communications guy saw that freaked him out.
Oh, yeah. That was fun when they came to put in our internet at our place.
And we can't see, but we can hear the coyotes.
There's a 4-foot snake in your backyard. I just want you to know it lives under your house. Have a nice day. Oh, good.
We can hear the coyotes, but they're not close enough to film.
You immediately go out and you go get some snake repellent. Yeah, I know. I mean, there's nothing like a good old shovel with a sharp end on it.
The garden snakes are good.
Well, as long as it's a garden snake, it's when you get like down here, you got to worry about like coral snakes or rattlesnakes and things like that. I don't play. I don't play with anything that's got venom in it. Yeah. Sorry, I'm all down with Mother Nature, unless it can cause harm to me or my animals, and then I have an issue.
Well, that's what's so strange. It just didn't seem like normal. As a mother, it would seem the protection instinct would kick in, no matter what kind of mother you are, to walk right down the middle, not trying to hide under things. Or it was a very brightly lit room with people, several people, dogs. I mean, lots of things to be elusive, at least. This thing just came out of our office, took a right turn, and walked right towards us down the middle as if it was a pageant or something. It was very bizarre, I thought, actually. I mean, I don't know. I'm not like an expert on scorpion behavior, obviously.
Maybe it's the GMOs they're putting out there. Maybe not.
I just thought it was strange that it came and walked right up to us, almost like, hey, I'm just here to say hi. I just thought that was very bizarre. But yeah, it's been interesting living in the country, especially in this country, in this part of Texas. But I like it here. I do, and I'm glad that we're not in Austin because, geez, look at all the crap that's going down. I mean, I think people need to stop. They're trying to force everyone into these large cities right now. That's the big thing. They want to build up the mega regions, America 2050, Agenda 21, all that stuff. Make us all a lot more manageable and controllable. But people need to get the hell out of those cities because, I mean, that's just scary. It really is. The stuff that is going down in some of these large cities right now. The amount of control people are losing over their lives, the amount of freedom that's being lost. I mean, look at what they're doing in California right now with the water. They're about to meter private wells. And obviously
it's insane. And then when you look into like what's going on, people are like, well, there's a drought. There's a lot of different things that led up to the drought.
Gee, I wonder what's causing the drought.
Well, it wouldn't be all that geoengineering that they do.
No,
spraying.
That is.
They spray desiccant up into the air so that it doesn't rain. I know, even though they admit that they do it, but and then they trade the weather on the stock market because they make more money if crops fail, and they get insurance payouts and stuff. And I'm not saying the farmers; I mean the people that bet on them and things like that. And they make more money if things fail and all this other stuff than if they. But hey, who am I? Chicago Mercantile Exchange. That must be a conspiracy theory too. That they trade weather. Oh, but they actually do. Oh, look at that. Oh. Well,
I have to. I've been watching some reports from a little-known guy on YouTube. He does. I think it's called Harp Report, but he explains everything on these satellite images. Very interesting how these storms that keep going towards California suddenly get broken up right before they hit California, and California would have gotten rain had that not continually happened all the time, which I guess they're going to eventually have to blame on something. I guess they'll say it's El Nino or something that's actually breaking up storms now instead of letting them go ever to California. And now 100% of California is in drought, and it just keeps getting worse. But he's shown some of these videos, and he kept talking about how there was a HARP transmitter station on this small island off of Baja that's doing some of this. And obviously at this point the technology they have is they've got giant floating HARP platforms that are classified, the Navy does, things like that. So they can be doing this from any place in the world. But he was talking about that, and I thought, well, I wonder if there really is something on that island. And so I put it into Google Earth and just started looking around, and I found the one road on that island, and I just followed it all down the island. And sure enough, you get towards an old airport runway, and right before it, there are 3 what look like arrays on the ground. And I looked through the history, and they weren't there 5 years ago. They're there now. So I thought that was pretty interesting. If you look, you'll find, I guess.
Well, like people are, when they talk about HARP now, they're like, well, they're dismantling it. So, there goes your whole theory.
Because it was just that one thing, right?
Because they only had one installation, right? Okay, and maybe they don't need shit that big anymore. I mean, we had cell phones the size of a brick 20 years ago, and now, they have a phone, they
have an earbud.
Right, they're putting them in earbud, the watches, little tiny squares that are like an inch by an inch. Yet if I had showed you that 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you would have laughed at me. No, that's not a cell phone. But in the 90s, they weighed 100 pounds. You could use it as a personal defense weapon. So maybe the installation got a wee bit smaller because the technology got better and more efficient.
It's kind of hard to see, but I found it, and as soon as I saw it, I went, "That's exactly what that is." I mean, it's kind of unmistakable. This grid on the ground. There's 3 of them. They're right by each other. It's obviously not a farm or something like that. It's pretty clear what it is. But he just kept referencing it, and people in the comments that there weren't even that many because not that many people watch his videos yet. But I feel like everyone should because it's HARP Report. I just thought he did an excellent job of explaining what was going on and how these pressure systems don't make sense and how meteorologists are probably crapping their pants looking at some of this stuff because it doesn't make any sense at all what's happening with the weather. And I don't know. I think it's interesting because recently we've been doing a lot of research, like I said earlier, into alternative energy stuff. And I've been reading a lot about Wilhelm Reich and how the FDA shut him down, burned his books. We had a book burning in this country back in the 50s. They burned his books, actually, and told him he could not study. They basically told him what he could and could not study is basically what they did. But he was talking about how there was drought stuff going on then, and he was trying to do stuff, different science projects having to do with making it rain and things like that, right before they put him in prison. But it's very interesting when he talks about droughts back in the 50s and how there were issues. And they try to make it seem like all this stuff is happening today.
And in particular, he described a dead energy in the air that was due to such environmental factors as metals, electromagnetic frequency, chemicals, toxins, and
power plants.
This and other causes of dead air, dead energy in the atmosphere created drought-like conditions or
and
was
an
tied
imbalance.
to it.
Yeah.
And then bringing in a full-of-life energy just really...
Yeah, he had some really interesting stuff he was working on, and they came in and basically shut him down with obscure, really tenuous, ridiculous law that they had having to do with what was it? It was the Food and Drug Cosmetic Act, but it wasn't like he was actually even selling food or drugs.
He was just breathing, and
Basically-
according to them, they were like, "You're breathing. That's a violation of federal statute 1028 A B C."
Exactly. Well, and they didn't ever reproduce any of his scientific studies. He had all this data. He had all these studies he had done. They didn't try to reproduce any of that.
Where's Tesla?
And exactly. And they didn't tell him. Basically, what they did was they just shut him down. I mean, they basically shut him down. They used bureaucracy to do it. They actually got an injunction to say that the energy that he was talking about, which was a cosmic life energy that we're all swimming in all the time, does not exist. And then they said that his books were labels for his scientific experiments. So under a labeling law, I guess, they got his books burned and banned anytime they mentioned the energy that he was researching. But they basically came in and said, we're the U.S. government. We can tell you what science is and what it's not, and we can tell you what you can and can't study. I mean, that's what they did.
Where
insane.
where have I seen that before? Oh, currently.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, but when you say this stuff to people, you're crazy, you're conspiracy theorist.
That
No,
didn't happen.
You know all those cell phones that everybody loves to play with and get lost on, and play stupid video games or text message or whatever the freak they do on their cell phones nowadays. I only use mine for a few small things, and I know things are being monitored, so whatever, F them. And I just live my life anyway. I'm not going to live it in fear. If they're going to monitor it, then monitor it. We make fun of it. I laugh. I talk. So if I'm on the phone with Joe, I'll be talking. I'm like, Joe, say hi to the NSA. He's like, hi, NSA. Or we'll make
We
fun
actually
of
went out and got a well, it's not a landline because they don't have those anymore, do they? But we actually got a house phone, and then we bought an answering machine from 1985 or something.
With
It's got
tape?
the little cassette tape in it.
That's awesome.
We're going old school. We just don't care. I hate cell phones. I hate what they do to people. I hate how separated everyone has become. They're like, we're all so connected today. Really? When's the last time you talked to somebody to their face?
I can't stand it. That's it's a way of controlling people, right? But all that stuff, at least the wireless technology it's based off of anyway, people owe that to Tesla, and they'd be like, who's Tesla? Who's Nikola Tesla? Now you get kids that are smarter. They're like, yeah, I knew Nikola Tesla. You're like, okay, tell me all about him. And then like half of them know really like about him, and the other half only know whatever propaganda they've been fed. And it's like, they're still tainting it. People still have no idea about free energy. Look, all this stuff, we should have had this like 50, 60 years ago. When we were kids growing up, this should have been like older technology already, and we should have been like coming up with the newer versions of it.
I have to say, I never heard of
Exactly.
Tesla until the internet came about.
Really?
Yeah.
I
Well, that
heard
doesn't
of it, but
surprise
I
me.
didn't know what I
Too
know
bad,
today at
though.
all. But yeah, no, I mean, that's the things that we've been looking into lately. We were talking about this earlier, but back at the end of the 1800s, there was what they've called now the Great Airship Mystery. I don't know if you've heard of that, but there were sightings over most of the country, and there were some 1,200 news articles in newspapers all throughout multiple states of people who saw these airships. They were cigar-shaped airships that had these big fishtail wings, and some people said it was UFOs, but they had these sightings, and they've tried to chalk this up to some big mass hallucination hoax, but obviously you have 1,200 news articles and newspapers all across the whole country. I mean, I guess maybe all of them were trying to sell newspapers, but they had detailed accounts from upstanding members of society, doctors and lawyers and people who saw these ships, and some of the ships would land because the ships, if you track the path of these stories, they were following the railroad, and then they would refuel with water because they actually had running electric lights on the ships. This is 1896, and they had engines that were running on water. Okay, and when they would talk to these people, sometimes little bits of information would slip out in these news articles that they would go up to the ship and talk to this crew that was on the ship. One of the guys identified himself as being somebody who was at from West Point Military Academy. Actually, two of the guys. And they also talked about how they were backed by wealthy New York financiers and that they were doing research on these ships because they were going to revolutionize air travel. And it was seen all through 1896, 1897, and then disappeared. There was one that crashed in Aurora, Texas, and then they said it was a UFO, and it was an alien body was found on scene, which sounds all, I'm sure, a way to discredit the thing. But what it really looks like is a breakaway civilization of elites funding technology that never made it into the public's hands ever. And then if you trace the story further, they started seeing these ships in Europe in the 1910s. But again, never made that into the hands of the public. And right now, what do we have? Well, we still have the gasoline cars, from like ever ago. And somehow we're just stuck on that. We keep getting all this new technology. We've got the wristband that tells us how much, how hydrated we are and where our global positioning, where we are on the earth and our heart rate and all this stuff, right? But yet our technology for our cars, maybe we got a little bit more efficiency with the electric car, maybe, the hybrids or whatever. But I mean, really, that technology has been stuck in its place for some time and has not been allowed to get better, is really what you see. And you see, when you start looking into this more, so much technology has been kept out of the hands of the public that it's insane. People say we're probably 30 years behind. Oh, no. We're probably more like at least a century behind. These people have been buying and directing where the public science goes and buying up the other stuff for themselves and keeping it out of the hands of the public for over 100, since at least probably middle of the 1800s, probably at least. They've been keeping stuff from us. So think about how far ahead they probably are. I mean, it really is like Joseph P. Farrell that wrote those books?
Yeah.
He wrote the book about the breakaway civilization of elite and the total power and total control they have. That's what it's really about. It's about buying up all of the meaningful technology to keep us under this system of control.
He did a lot of good books.
And look at what they've done with oil.
He did a lot of good books about the Nazis in World War II, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's one of his main
he did.
things.
But I mean, that's what it's about. They control us with that stuff. I mean, if we really had alternative sources of bountiful energy, think about how freeing that would actually be. It's not even about free energy. It's about freedom. We would have a lot more of it. Obviously, to keep us tied to oil is in so many ways a control system. I mean, and look what they do. They fight wars with it. They do all this stuff.
They would become irrelevant, and humanity as a whole, would be allowed to evolve as it should be. And they have been the ones that have been retarding the evolution the whole time.
Exactly.
That's why.
It's insane. When you start researching that's the rabbit hole right there. That's the mega rabbit hole, if you really want to talk about it.
In fact, I think at the end of the day, they would much rather depopulate this planet and shut everyone down than clean up their own act and fix the system, because it's no wonder that the system's almost irreparably broken. They don't want strong people rebuilding it, taking it in different directions. I got to agree with you, Stu.
With you, Stu.
Used to? What are you, suddenly Italian?
He does that sometimes.
Suddenly now you're on the Sopranos? Used to.
I just channel Badandi sometimes.
Use guys. Use guys. Let me ask you this. Do you see, like, with this Ebola thing, I mean, do you see them allowing it to happen so that it creates, at least it gets out of hand to something that maybe they think they can control? And then that maybe, that has some really bad implications because these people playing God like that, it could easily get out of control? I mean, do you think it's something like that? Do you think they're trying to, some people are like, oh my God, it's part of the end, their end game agenda? Do you think they're enacting that, or do you think it's just smaller scale?
I don't know, because when I think about the government's response to this and how they've handled it and the things that they've done, it's not just like watching a little kid poke a cobra with a stick over and over. It's like watching a little kid take the cobra and stick it, on his eye and just say, bite me. It's like they want something horrible to happen. I mean, on all fronts. I've not seen them do really anything that you would expect them to do if they were even pretending to try. I mean, at this point, really. So, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of creepy stuff that's happened this year, and I mean, the Georgia Guidestones thing is creepy with the adding of the 2014 block, because that's all about depopulating. And this is something that they're saying now there's going to be, 1.5 million cases, they're thinking, the CDC is saying by January, if it keeps replicating as it's been doing at the same rate. And the UN is now saying they think it's going to go airborne. So, I mean, I don't know. It does seem to me like, why would they put something out there if they ultimately can't control it at some level, or if they themselves don't have the antidote for certain select members, or whatever it is they're going to do? They ultimately they have to have some form of control, though, because that's what they're all about. So, I mean, I know there have been plans, it seems like, at times I've read things where they wanted to just get into spaceships and fly away and do something here. It's kind of like Moonraker or something, right? The plot. Just, set loose a virus here, but...
One of their psycho, fellow thinking professors back, I don't remember how long it was ago, maybe like 2005, 2006, somewhere around there, he said that he's an overpopulationist, and he came out and he was during some acceptance speech that he was giving, he was at, and he was getting an award or something, and I don't remember if it was at a college or wherever it was, but he was speaking in front of all these other professors and all these other, intellectuals. I'm doing air quotes when I say that, and he comes out with, and I'm paraphrasing here a bit, but pretty much, it wouldn't be a bad thing if we had airborne Ebola wipe out like a good percentage of humanity, and then he got interviewed and he backed up, afterwards, and he backed up what he said. He's like, oh, we're overpopulated, and yeah, I stand by what I said, and, airborne Ebola, and then fast forward, 7-8 years or whatnot, or however long ago it was, and here you have, Ebola. And remember, a month ago they were, it could never go airborne, and now they're like, well, maybe it could go airborne, and I mean, it could if it mutated. They don't know. When they tell me they have things under control, I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah, it's like every bad movie. It's like we were talking about earlier. It's interesting. I mean, we just put up that video of the CDC director contradicting himself in under a minute and a half on his little CNN play show he tried to do. It floors me how he tried to be all cutesy with Sanjay Gupta, and they were both smiling the whole time like, this is so cute, we're reassuring the public. It was gag inducing. But it's interesting how, I'm sorry, what happened? Sorry about that, I got interrupted. Now I have to try to find my train of thought again. What was I saying?
That happens all the time to me, Melissa.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Mike, I have a kid not wanting to go to sleep, so there's a whole deal going on out here. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, it's just I don't know what I was. I'll remember it in a second.
You were talking about them saying they have everything under control, but they really don't.
Well, that's exactly what I was trying to say. Yeah, they don't have anything under control at all. And the more that they continue to say they do, the more it looks like a horrible, bad movie. Could it mutate? The longer that this is allowed to go on as it has been. I mean, now they're trying to do all these emergency measures and build all these centers, and we're sending over 3,000 troops and whatever.
FEMA camp. So here we go. I'm going to cut us off because the break is sneaking up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll finish up with Ebola and more. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment. Bringing it back around right to where we started from. Just the way Aaron and Melissa and I roll. We we cover one subject and then everything that's possibly connected to it. We go from A to Z and everywhere in between. That's why I love having these two on the broadcast as often as they are able to come on. And I do want to say thank you from the very bottom of my heart, guys, and for the listeners I know as well, because they love when you're on. So thank you for giving us 2 hours.
Well, Aaron had to actually run out, so he left before your thank you. That's sad.
That's
but
okay.
I appreciate it. He'll be right back.
He can hear it in the archive section later on. It'll be
where I will be listening to it as well.
The bountiful archive section. So,
Aeromedical Biological Containment Center. That's what the stupid twisty tie plastic wrap thing they had on the State Department funded airplane that they brought the Ebola patient over in. That's what that thing was called.
The Ebola jet.
The Ebola jet.
Well,
so that's what we've come to.
How much money did we waste on that?
I can't remember. It was
like 3 million, 3 billion.
It was a lot of money. It was.
The 2.5 missing trillion or whatever it was, billion or whatever. Was it a billion or trillion that Rumsfeld said was missing? I can't remember. I know it's such a high number.
Such a big number.
I think it was billion, but whatever. Yeah,
it's very hard to remember.
So maybe that's where it went. It went to outfit that plane. We're able to account for it. Look, we bought the Ebola plane with it. So. They spent all this money on Ebola plane, right? And all this, oh my God, scary. But I'm not saying Ebola is not scary and everything. But this is the other flip side of the coin here. And I have to pose this question to you. How scary is this if the cleanup crew is walking around in sneakers and jeans and using a pressure washer to, clean things into the sewer? So, have they been lied to, or is this all just BS? Are
we being lied to? Exactly, because when they brought the guy over, they made such a huge... you know what? I'm going to post that little intro to our first True Stream News episode where I just did the Ebola fear porn scary thing. I'm just going to post that because it's such... ridiculous crap we're being fed right now on this, because on one hand you have the State Department paying for this Aeromedical Biological Containment Unit, which they have to have some big long name for so it sounds all whatever, but it really just did look like plastic wrap and twisty ties, and it was pretty ridiculous. And then the 24/7 news cycle followed that like a hawk. They showed us I didn't even watch it all, but every time I did look online. I don't even have news on my television, but every time I looked online, they're following this guy. Like, now he's on the tarmac. First the plane's in the air, now it's on the tarmac. Now he's in the ambulance. Now they're at the plane. And they would fly a helicopter over and show them taking this guy in. And the first guy just walked out of the ambulance, first of all, but everyone had at least those, white suits on and protective gear, right? The second lady they brought over, which you really couldn't see her because she was all wrapped up or whatever, so I don't know who that was, but it could have been her. I guess it was. They show them wheeling her in, and they've got this whole thing roped off to wheel her into the hospital. And then there's just some dude standing there on his phone that they apparently said was fine for him to just stand there while they're bringing her in. So it's obviously not that dangerous. We've gone from that to now you have the NIH bringing a patient in who's another doctor that's supposedly infected with it. And they're like, oh, well, it's Ebola can be treated at any hospital. It's really no big deal at all. It doesn't need special hospital containment units or anything like that. And it really poses no extra risk to the staff. And so that's fine. And then you go from all of that, and you can see this de-evolution of this down to now where we have the people in the jeans and T-shirt pressure washing the Ebola-tainted vomit off of the sidewalk. Really? Really? And who's buying this still? Like, what are we supposed to think about that? Because they've changed the narrative so much from be really afraid to now that they finally got it here, well, it's nothing. It's just a little Ebola. Just wipe that off. Or just spit on this and wipe that off for you. You're good. It's no big deal. I mean, what is that? What is that?
We'll talk about conflicting signals.
Exactly.
I mean,
what the hell?
You know what I mean? Even trying to analyze it, it's like, okay. Like if these, and I'm sure that they weren't meant to be seen doing that in jeans and a T-shirt. But so here's the question now. Were they told that it was okay to do that, even though it, in reality it wouldn't be okay? So were they lied to and just told to push it down into the drain and not care? And then if so, why? Why would you do that? What are the implications of that? Is there anything really nefarious going on? Or Is it all just BS to begin with? And this is more about power and control and fear, fear, as I call it, fear porn. I mean,
fear porn.
This is like the fear porn awards ceremony going on right now.
It really is. And now I just read that an NBC News cameraman that they just hired on Tuesday has now tested positive, so they're going to fly him back here for treatment.
Yeah, I think they're
That just
quarantining
happened.
the rest of the crew for 21 days or something like that, they're saying.
Yeah. So how interesting that they...
But I saw a report yesterday that a CNN crew went over there and came back, and it was Erin Burnett and her crew, and they were the ones saying that they came back and they came through customs, and customs was like, oh, come on through. Like, nobody was like, where are you coming from? A place that has Ebola, you could maybe have it on you. I don't know. Maybe we should check for that.
Well, they got that doctor who flew in from Guatemala into Atlanta. He's from Springfield, Missouri, and he's flew in wearing the full Tyvek suit or whatever it's called, and had CDC is lying written on his back in marker in his protesting. And he said that when he came in, and he was coming from Guatemala, but he said the only thing they asked him is whether or not he had any tobacco or alcohol on him. So they didn't do any kind of... And that's the thing. These flights are leaving Africa, and they're going to... I mean, the guy in Dallas, his flight went to Brussels first, then it went to Washington, D.C., then Dallas. So, but yeah, they're still saying... We're cautioning people. Our agencies here are still saying, we're cautioning you Americans to not go to the Ebola-ravaged martial law, take over countries. We just want to tell you, maybe you should think twice about doing that. Just kind of think it over first. Really? That's all you got? Maybe don't go there? Or hey, just go there and then we'll fly you back in the aeromedical biocontainment, whatever, and make a huge big deal of you on the news. I don't know.
And then afterwards we'll have the cleaning crew come over in jeans and their sneakers and clean it out.
Yeah, exactly. But there's no laws in place that these people... They're giving people questionnaires. There's no law in place that says you have to be honest on a freaking questionnaire, first of all. And why would anybody in this circumstance, when they see the things that are happening here, this guy wasn't honest. He had to fill out a questionnaire.
Yeah, they said he lied originally.
He lied about it.
He didn't say that he was in Liberia or whatever.
That he'd been around that woman. Well, on the questionnaire for the airplane, not on... it was the questionnaire for getting on the plane, asked him if he'd been around anyone who had been infected with Ebola.
There you go. Either way.
And he lied about that.
The honor system did not work there.
It didn't work. No, obviously not. Obviously it won't. And the other thing is that, these symptoms are general malaise, fever, things like that. Slight fever. I mean, that you can check somebody for a fever, but once we get into flu season coming up pretty soon, I mean, are they really going to even be able to tell what's what pretty soon? I mean, that's another question.
Well, then it goes back to that whole executive order I brought up about, respiratory illnesses, and suddenly, oh my God, you're sneezing, you have Ebola! We
must all get the vaccine, really, because Bill Gates has said that this is going to go to lots of other countries, and he has paid $50 million towards that vaccine. And as we all know, Bill Gates only has our best interests at heart, and definitely is not about depopulation at all. He totally doesn't have meetings with other globalist billionaire psychopaths about how they can cull the population.
Doesn't he have a thing for mosquitoes, right? Oh, God. Well, doesn't Puerto Rico have a sudden outbreak of their own, of the chikungunya or whatever the frig it's called, virus?
Which, by the way, is another one of the viruses that the Fort Detrick guys were working with over in the Ebola-ravaged nations, along with Lassa fever. So they were growing those cultures and working with those in the labs over there.
My wife told me everybody in Puerto Rico, because she grew up in Puerto Rico, so she checks out news from back home and she talks to her friends and stuff. And now everybody's going and getting they're pushing everybody to go get the vaccine, the chikungunya or whatever the frick it's called, vaccine.
I think that
convenient.
It's convenient. It's also convenient that Bloomberg interviewed that one doctor, and he said, well, there just hasn't really been enough panic to necessitate an Ebola vaccine. And I put that clip in two videos, I think at least, that we did, because it was amazing when he said it, because you could tell he was stuttering over the word, like he was trying not to say it, but it was so true. It just came out of his mouth anyway, that they just haven't had enough financial incentive to create drugs and vaccines for Ebola, but there just hasn't been enough panic. And he kind of stuttered over it, because really now there is, and they're fast tracking it, and there will be no long-term studies. Like, there are never any long-term studies, but there probably won't even be that much of a short-term one. In fact, I bet that the reason we deployed 3,000 troops is so that we can also test these drugs out on them, because they'll have to take whatever. Don't they? Don't you guys have to take whatever they make you take, pretty much? I mean, isn't that part of the deal?
You don't have a
you don't have a say.
No, if you're commanding officer. I mean, I've seen guys. I got around it because I knew how to get around it without. I was smart. I just had friends that were corpsmen, and I told them, I said, "You ain't shooting me up with that," because I had a bad reaction to vaccines in boot camp. I told them what I thought, because I had Bell's palsy for a little bit after we'd gotten the vaccines when I was in basic, on the left side of my face. So I told him, I said, I don't mess with vaccines anymore. I don't care. I said, you're going to put down in my paperwork that I got it. I said, I get sick, it's on my ass. It's not anybody else's. Don't worry about it. And he was like, all right, cool. So on record, I got my anthrax vaccine. I never got it. Never physically got it.
That's probably a good thing, because all I've heard is horror stories.
Joe got screwed up from it.
Yeah.
The vaccines I got screwed up were, they give us like yellow fever and typhoid and diphtheria and all this other crap. But Joe got screwed up from the anthrax vaccine. I was like, I ain't taking that shit. After I got jacked up in basic, I was like, you ain't making me take that. But yes,
isn't it lovely that we live in a country now where we have presidential bioethics panels who say that it's totally fine to test anthrax vaccines on babies? That's ethically okay. I mean, it's pretty insane, really. But I would say that's why they sent over 3,000 troops, actually, is probably so they can have a nice test group for their new vaccine.
What happens when they all get sick? You're going to bring all 3,000 of them back to the United States?
That's a great question. That's a question I was about to ask you. So,
and then there's like four per, let's say like 4 family members per person. Like, maybe that's a lot, but we'll say 4 family members per person.
They'll just quarantine everybody, I guess.
3,000. So that's like, we're going to have like 12,000 people locked up. That's awesome. Everybody's going to be just locked up. But they love to
flex that muscle. I mean, I'm sure they love it now. The CDC got to go door to door in Dallas, banging on doors, questioning people, going into their homes. They got to do all that martial law stuff they love so much, exercising all that power over people they shouldn't even have. And they got to do that. And so now we have that, and it's going to continue. And what I was going to tell you earlier, I've forgotten what I lost my train of thought, but it was leading up to the fact that on our last video, this woman came on and said, she posted a comment about how, let's see, I just had that open just a second ago, but she posted a comment about how she works in the medical industry in Iowa. She works at a hospital there, and they had a meeting where they told her that there was a child in Iowa who was being tested for it, and that everyone should expect a positive result and what they should do if that happens. And it's interesting because she posted that on our video. I said, come back and tell us what happens if you find out anything. And she said she posted it on a few other channels, but she didn't say there was Ebola in Iowa. And then all of a sudden, this article comes out in one of the Des Moines newspapers, where it says, despite what you're hearing on social media Thursday, health officials in Iowa are not reporting any cases of Ebola here. I thought that was interesting. I mean, she said I did post it on a couple of other sites, but I don't think it was that many. And then suddenly they're responding to it basically in a story. Well, she didn't say there was Ebola there. She said they were testing a child for Ebola there, and they didn't refute that either. They just said, despite what you're hearing, there's no Ebola here, even though no one said that. So that's pretty interesting. But
right, it doesn't mean that they didn't test somebody for it.
Exactly.
They just, maybe we were okay and there just wasn't a case of Ebola there, but how many people you think are gonna line up willingly for some, new vaccine of whatever the hell it is they're putting in there? Probably the chicken flu or whatever the frig is.
What the hell ever. Yeah, exactly. A bunch of chemicals and brain deteriorating nonsense.
Aborted fetal tissue. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. And you got some heavy metals in there, too. Got to get that in there. Open up that blood-brain barrier. Get that stuff right on in.
Probably spit and pee in it, too, just for added pressure.
Cherie Geo sent me an article earlier. The one of the women from Council on Foreign Relations wrote a whole article about how Obamacare can save us from Ebola. And she was talking about how she thought they were probably going to tie the vaccines in with Obamacare. So to have your Obamacare, you have to have the Ebola vaccine.
What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet they're going to put it right in the flu shot because they know people aren't going to want to take it, so they'll just put it all together like they did with the H1N1 vaccine.
Like a combination thing. Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, like my father, he wouldn't take the H1N1 vaccine, but he gets the flu shot every year, and I tell him not to. And he's been doing it for years. So he goes, he'll still get sick and stuff. But I'm like, the flu shot is what gets you sick. But anyway, he'll get the flu shot, and the 1 year when they came out, the first year with the H1N1, it was as a separate shot. And like many people, he didn't get it. He's like, I'm not putting that crap in me. And I said, well, the flu shot's no better, but I don't want the H1N1. Well, next year he goes to get the flu shot, which was last year, I think it was, or the year before that. He goes and gets the flu shot, and I said to him, "Did you get your flu shot?" And he's like, "Yeah." He tells me he got his flu shot, and I said, "Well, you should have talked to me before you went because if you had gone, I could have told you, the H1N1 vaccine that you didn't want to get." Yeah. Well, they stuck it in the flu shot this year, so they combined it. So that's what I see them doing with the Ebola vaccine. Same thing. They'll just, you're not going to get it? That's cool. We'll just put it in the flu shot. You won't get the vaccine? That's cool. We'll just make it mandatory. We'll just put guns in your face. How's that sound?
Well, that's what they're doing to this family now. They're over there with guns in their face. I mean, that's essentially what's going on. It very much is like every one of these movies we've seen. And we were talking about this on break earlier, but it's interesting too because now for at least, and yes, we disputed the days, right, Aaron? But for at least the last 20 years, the American public and the world at large has been fed a steady diet of zombie porn. And I actually just saw that Kansas did a zombie emergency drill or whatever it was where they faked a zombie attack to have an emergency drill response to a zombie attack to get people thinking about preparedness or whatever. But it's under this idea of zombies. And now we have this going on. I mean, I can't imagine the climate of responding to a massive epidemic in today's climate of...
Well, look at all the training for the soldiers, the zombie drills,
yeah, exactly.
Just mowing down endless waves of zombies. What happens if it's not zombies, it's just sick people. And they're like, help us, please help. Headshot! Save your ammo! Just saying.
I mean, it looks like Natural News just put up an article, too, about the government is seizing colloidal silver that's being used to treat Ebola patients. The World Health Organization. So that's going to be fun. They're going to take away people's natural medicines, things that have been around for thousands of years, and they're going to force them to take pharmaceutical concoctions that haven't even had the equivalent of a short-term study, let alone a long-term study, to actually know what the adverse health effects of that are going to be. It's just nuts. It's nuts what they're doing, and it's you have to wonder. I mean, all of this stuff leads back to control. I mean, look at all the control they're going to be able to assume with this, the new powers they're going to be able to. It makes me sick. Our government's disgusting. It really is. It's sick. That's the sickness. That's the zombies. Our government is a bunch of zombies. And obviously we talked about John McCain earlier, so I don't have to say a whole lot more.
He looks like a zombie.
That's what I'm saying.
He just, every time he talks now, just think of a zombie doing, I'm trying to think of what the name of the dance is where they do the shoulders and you ever see zombies dance? Like when people always,
it's the Michael Jackson.
It's
Thriller.
like Thriller. That's what it is. It's, you do the, you kind of like lift the shoulders up and you kind of walk, like they kind of dance like they got a stick in their ass. That's how John McCain looks when he's on TV talking. He's all uncomfortable. And I know he's got war wounds, but they didn't break his arms torturing him. He broke his arms ejecting from the plane like a douche because he didn't fold his arms in like he was trained to, and he got hurt. It's the same dude that dropped ordnance on the deck of a carrier, okay, and killed a lot of people. He is an idiot. John McCain is an asshole, and I have no problem saying it on air, okay? I don't care. He's a scumbag. He's a warmongering piece of crap. Then he comes on and does the zombie dance. We need to bomb Syria. We need to bomb Libya. We need to bomb Iraq. We need to bomb Iran.
Bomb, Iran.
Oh, you remember that?
He's disgusting.
That was a hit from the 60s.
No, he just did. I remember the day that I saw him on the news, and I can't remember which video we put up or we put this in there, but it was when Obama first wanted to go into Syria and no one was buying it, and he was on Fox News or some show, and he said, if this was 9/12/2001, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Puke, you disgusting, putrid, vile, horrible human being.
See, my retort to that would have been like, you're right, Senator McCain, we wouldn't have, because everybody would have been so traumatized by the huge, massive mind control event that happened the day before that they would have been willing to do anything. But see, we're beyond that now, and luckily, some people have gotten their common sense back, and you don't like it. And I'm sure you sick piece of evil dog turd trash, would love to see another 9/11. So it could be, whatever the frig date it is. It'd be catchy so you could say it. They love to invoke 9/11. It's like,
yeah, they do.
Why do we need to spend all this money on more tanks? 9/11. Why do we need to spend billions of dollars on the 9/11?
Well, you got to get that mass mind control, mass fear control they injected into the minds of every American. Just tap that lever as many times as you can. See how many treats you can get out of it. It's disgusting. Now, here's the thing. We're to the point now. We're shipping in Ebola patients. We don't give a crap about any kind of security measures or control at our border, yet we have to fight ISIS, even though they know on record ISIS is in Juarez right now, right across the border. They don't care about that, though. But we definitely got to go into Syria and blow up grain silos and their oil
and attack the
refineries.
Group, which doesn't
we got to do that.
Exist, but
that's what we have to do. Exactly. And now I'm reading this where Natural Solutions Foundation has spent thousands of dollars trying to ship in bottles of nanosilver over to Sierra Leone, and they've been blocked by the U.S. government multiple times with no excuse as to why they're not allowing that shipment to go in there of nanosilver, even though on record, Department of Defense documents have revealed that these kinds of solutions have proven benefits in fighting hemorrhagic fevers. DOD research in 2008 confirmed it. So they know that it actually has some benefit, and they're blocking shipments of it to the people who apparently need it the most right now. Why is our government... Because they're a corporation that protects other corporations. We have a corporatocracy. We do not have a government. It's the United States of America, Inc. Even one of our representatives... I think it was a representative and not a senator. It might have been a senator. Can't remember which one it was off the top of my head. But he said that the Congress and the Senate are the board of directors for the largest economic entity in the world. That's what he said. That's why he said they needed to have a raise, because he said they weren't getting paid enough. Can't remember which dude that was, but I tried to say dude because I was going to say douche. But anyway,
I'm disappointed that you don't back bombing grain silos in Syria. I mean, look.
That's the way I fight
obviously
terrorists.
Taking out the food supply. Food. Yeah, exactly. Taking out the food supply of the country of Syria and the Syrian people itself, and attacking oil refineries that supposedly ISIS controls. Well, oil, that's energy, food. What did Kissinger say about you control food? You control the world? Something to that effect. You can control everybody because everybody has to eat. It's one of those basic human needs. It's like air. But no, I'm a conspiracy theorist because I just see what they're doing in Syria. I mean, come on. Like they wanted to go in and topple the government. We wouldn't let them. And then spooky 9/11's anniversary. Look, Bin Laden's gone, but ISIS is here. John the beheader cut off a couple of people's heads, and then, boom, everybody's losing their freaking minds. Oh, my God. And the new thing, it's on front of Fox News right now because they're trying to scare the crap out of everybody, the warmongers, It's like Iraq War Part 3 over there. You go over to foxnews.com right now. It's ridiculous. And they have one of the title articles, big headlines, the Army puts out a warning, be careful. Jihadists are urging their members to find out where army people live and military members live and go home and kill their families. You know what? I challenge you to go piss off and screw with some of these military families. You'll get your ass handed to you because they're just as tough as anybody that's in the military. And let me tell you something. You think unfortunately that's going to be effective with some people. But, for the most part, do you really think that even in this day and age that's going to be effective anymore? I mean, they just go right to the lowest common denominator. Oh my God, they're going to get your family. We got about a minute left, guys. What do you think?
Yeah, I think exactly. I agree with you completely. I think this is ridiculous. I don't know how we went from protesting last year to now everyone's just crapping themselves. They're teaching all the school children that ISIS is going to come get them now in our public schools in this country. And it's just insane. And oh, by the way, it was Democratic Congressman Jim Moran. He's the one that said that, the American people should know members of Congress are underpaid. And it's the board of directors for the largest economic entity in the world.
One of the most corrupt
and
so,
underpaid.
That was who it was. It was Democratic Congressman Jim Moran. So vote for him
I have to
again.
make money on the side by making deals with people.
I gotta get kickbacks and stuff. Yeah.
What a d-bag.
Exactly.
Underpaid. You people
and that's
should
why I
be
said
fired. All of you should be fired. You weren't supposed. It was originally you were supposed to. You weren't even supposed to get paid that much. You were supposed to be there for the better of the country. You sexist shit. Oh, they're all scumbags. Don't even get me started, guys. We're out of time. I'm so glad you came on again. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. We should do this again soon.
Of course. You guys are always welcome.
When the second, third, and fourth Ebola patient shows up here and they go, "Oh, we didn't know that was going to happen."
Oh, so that means I'll see you guys in like 3 or 4 days then.
Yeah.
So like by like next week, Wednesday or something. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. Check them out. TruthStreamMedia.com. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.